Hey, what's up everyone? This is Julian and welcome to my channel. I am currently on the thrilling journey of trying to get better at golf. I figure I might as well track my progress and share my learnings along the way. So just a quick background before we get started. This was a dark point in my life, I'll be quite honest. Um, I, it's so hard to share, but I did not have any consistency with any club at this point. And also I didn't really have too many people to play golf with, to be quite honest. So I figured instead of paying a course fee and losing thousands of balls, I just stick to the driving range until I get some sort of consistency with some of my clubs. This video is actually pretty exciting for me as I achieved my first major goals I set for myself, which is to get some resemblance of consistency with the easier clubs, so the wedges and the short irons. This helped me to simplify things without getting overwhelmed. So to talk about this goal a little bit more, I set myself a pretty loose standard of being able to hit at least 60% of these shots straight. And I'm also giving myself a fairly generous acceptable range of what is considered a straight shot. There are still many other areas that I want to learn, and I didn't want to spend too much time just in this one area and not able to hit any other clubs. My approach to reaching this goal and pretty much all future goals are pretty straightforward. It follows a standard learning loop where you practice first, gathering questions for anything that came up that session, finding out the answers afterwards, either online or through friends or whatnot, and then practicing again with the new information you acquired, see if that helped, and rinse and repeat that cycle until pretty much the step. I think this is really a key to improving quickly is to have a defined learning loop and following it. This was a really obvious thing to say, but I do forget about that sometimes. And when I go to the range, I just try to hit the ball as hard as I can or trying the same thing over and over again, hoping for different results. So to quickly wrap this point up, the most important thing at this stage was to be attentive in the practice sessions and make sure I ask questions and find answers for them. Before jumping right into the questions that I had at this point and go into how I went about looking for answers for them, this experience will be different for everyone. How you think about a swing or what questions you may have. And so while you may be focused on different areas or your questions might be different, I think the general structure and how I approach it could still be useful. And without further ado, let's jump into the questions I had leading up to this point. What made the most sense for me was thinking about the swing in three different stages. One as the setup step, two is the swing motion itself, and three is the follow through. For the most part, at this stage, my questions are mostly around the setup. So the very first part of it, I'm not quite sure what should be the right thing. Some things that come to mind were, am I standing too close to the ball or am I standing too far to the ball? Really, what should be the right balance I should be maintaining and the right distance from the ball. The other was, am I holding the club right? So how should my hand feel on around the club? And also, what should I be doing with my shoulder and head position? The shoulder and head position I was thinking a lot less of. Most of my focus at this point was around the distance because I just can't really get a comfortable position. So really focusing around how should I be positioned relative to the ball and also looking at the grip. So those are the two areas that I've honed in on at this point. Didn't really think too much about the head and the shoulder placement. I'm not entirely sure if breaking it down and looking at a small piece at a time is the right approach. But I think because there's so much going on, and I'm sure if you look online, there's like 1.5 million tips on everything, that it's difficult to try to think about all these things. So my approach right now is to just fix one small area at a time, and then once I get comfortable with those adjustments, and then make additional ones. Now, let's talk about my findings for my distance problem and also weight distribution problem. As the first step to this was obviously playing around at the range, move my feet a little bit closer, a little bit further apart, a little bit further back, or shifting my weight closer to my toes, or shifting my weight closer to my heels. And there was, of course, a mixed results because there's a variety of other things that's in play. So then the next thing I did was to go home, look up the question I had around how far I should be standing and positioning in terms of setup. And I found some really great resources online. I'll link those below. So now I got an idea of what I should be doing. I went back to the range and practiced some more with those things in mind. Since I am quite new and I don't have the distance to the ball dialed in, I did find a consistent way to get the right feel of balance so that my strikes are a little bit more consistent. And this was using a combination of my knee bend and hip tilt. I find that by adjusting those 2 points on my body, I was able to get consistent feel in terms of weight distribution, even if I was a little bit off on distance relative to the ball. And that helped me with a more consistent feel when I was swinging as well. This little trick of adjusting hip tilt and knee bend to get the right balance was huge for me, because I had a rough idea based on the video on what my weight distribution should be and relatively how far I should be close to the ball, but I didn't have a good feel on how to consistently reproduce it because my ball distance would always vary a little bit. So having this little micro adjustment between the hip and knee was absolutely huge for me to get consistency, or at least feel more consistent, so that I have more confidence when I'm striking. The next thing to tackle was the grip question. For this, I also looked up some videos on YouTube. There are an abundance of information out there on different type or the correct grip. So I'll just link the one that I watched below, but it was almost set it and forget it at this stage, where once I got an idea of how I should be holding it, I just kind of did that and didn't really think about it too much at this stage. With these two things, I felt like I was at a much better position with my stance. I definitely felt an increase in consistency in my ball strikes. It's not perfect, but I think it was better than where it was before. I know I need to revisit this at some point, but I think this is a good starting point, and I need to start looking at other areas where I can improve as well. Like the other two areas I was talking about, the swing motion itself and also the follow through. So lots to learn. This was a good starting point, but still a long ways to go. It took me about 30 hours of range time to get to this stage, and I feel like I've barely scratched the surface. These were the 2 latest range sessions before I moved on to my next focus, which was to get some consistency with my mid-length irons. And while I'm at it, here's some footage of where I'm currently at, and spoilers, big old slice of it. I sped up the footage so you don't have to sit through the whole thing, but you get the idea. Anyways, quick recap before I get out of here. The biggest thing for me right now is to focus on the process and my learning system, identifying areas or a couple areas that needs work and focus on that so I'm not getting overwhelmed. We're trying to fix too many things at once. Currently, the specific areas that help me with getting my wedges hitting straighter are grip adjustments and adjusting balance and distance to the ball. So using my knees and hips as pivot points where I can adjust those areas, and also trying to get consistent distance to the ball. And don't get me wrong, I was definitely hitting some shots thinner and hitting other shots fat, but the mat covered up a lot of those issues. And also my thoughts were, if I'm just able to hit it straight for now, the ball will roll and it will get the job done anyways, at least for now. And over time, I will be working on making better contact. And when I fix other areas, hopefully my consistency will get better with contact as well. Anyways, that is all from me. Let me know your thoughts on these videos. We'll love to hear from you. Thank you so much for coming by, and catch you next time.